Only a year ago, a beautiful, curvy, glass-laden Samsung-built smartphone would have seemed like a fantasy. On the same note, so would have one that didn't have removable battery or expandable storage. But is the beauty of the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus more than skin deep? Is it defined by more what it has than what it doesn't? And the question I try to answer in all my reviews, would I buy it? I'm John Ranger from TechnoBuffalo. This is our review of the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. As I do with all my reviews, let me start with the disclaimer. The unit we tested was provided by Samsung and it was international and unlocked. I used it for 4 days and Brandon, who did the written portion of this, used it for 7. I used AT&T, he used T-Mobile. If you want to know more on anything I'm going to talk about or see camera samples, hit the link down below and check out his full written review. When the S6 Edge launched earlier this year, the reaction was generally universal bemusement. There was no doubting its aesthetic appeal, and beyond that, the melted screen feature provided really next to no utility. Samsung has thrown out a few neat ideas, but its execution left a lot to be desired. It basically meant consumers were buying the dual-edge display for no other reason than it looked unlike anything we'd ever seen. That's pretty much the same idea with the Edge Plus, which features one of the most beautiful designs of any phone on the market. Like the S6 Edge, the device sports a pronounced dual-edge display, which is great to look at and even more enjoyable to use. When swiping and scrolling through content, the curved screen lends itself perfectly to a touch environment and somehow creates a deeper immersion between the user and what's on screen. Perhaps just a serendipitous byproduct of the curved trend, but no less appreciated. Particularly in Android Lollipop, where menus and content can be interacted by swiping from left and right, the cascading display is a fun and excellent way to journey through Google's operating system. But, and excuse my horrible pun here, it's a double-edged sword. Like the S6 Edge, the Edge Plus features slimmer edges that make the phone a bit uncomfortable to hold. You're constantly aware of the slim aluminum bezels, and it always seemed like a phone that might just slip out of my hand. I got pretty big mitts. Exacerbating the issue is the device's larger footprint, which requires a firm one-handed grip, or more often than not, 2 hands for comfortable, make sure you don't drop it operation. Content can also look a little strange when it bleeds over to the device's curved edge. While watching a YouTube video on landscape, for example, content can appear a little bit distorted at the top and the bottom, melting into the S6 Edge Plus's sloping screen. On websites, when text and pictures span the entire screen from left to right, it's definitely noticeable and sometimes can be a little off-putting. Even worse, when there's a little tiny button you gotta press that sits inside of the Edge display, oftentimes you gotta punch at it a few times to get it to register. So before you guys yell at me, having said that, you can't help but forgive the device because it's just so pretty to look at, even if it isn't the most practical design out there. The aluminum frame is a major improvement over anything else Samsung's put out in the past years, and the glass back, while not ideal, adds an extra touch of elegance. I also really want to highlight our review unit's gold color option, which turns the Edge Plus from ordinary phone into a spectacular piece of jewelry. This is hands down the most beautiful color option I have ever seen on a phone, and I've seen a lot of phones. If you're thinking about picking one up, do yourself a favor and just order the gold. Buried beneath that attractive sheen are some of the best specs to ever appear in a mobile device. A 5.7-inch Quad HD screen, Exynos 7420 processor, Android 5.1.1, Fingerprint Sensor, 32 or 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, which still sounds crazy to say, and a 3000 mAh battery. It also supports Qi and PMA wireless charging standards, which Samsung says is quicker this time around. That fingerprint sensor that I just mentioned, by the way, is incredibly accurate, and the device itself is blazing fast with normal usage. And by normal usage, I mean some YouTube, social media, emails using Cloud Magic, and web browsing. And a few phone calls thrown in there here and there. As you'd expect with those specs, things here are really fast. For emphasis, and you guys always say this a lot, really fast. No stutter or slowdown. But because I know you guys love benchmarks, here we go. 34,972 on Quadrant, 63,821 on N22571, 1,479 on Geekbench 3 single core, and 4,811 on multi-core. So on the topic of normal human usage, I did find the S6 Edge Plus to be lacking in the battery department. And lacking is the nicest way I could describe it. The 3000 mAh unit is larger than what was offered in the smaller S6 Edge, but I have to say the two were about on par with each other, which is to say, not great. If you're an obsessive who checks their phone every 10 minutes only to mindlessly scroll through Twitter, Instagram, and the like I am, your battery will take a hit, especially since the display is pushing so many pixels. But if you temper your usage, show some restraint, you'll get to the end of the day with some battery life to spare, but probably not much. Samsung's touting faster wireless charging and quick charge, which are all great. They require you to always be thinking about your battery. Here's an example. Last week I went to a baseball game. The end of the workday had about 60% battery life left, and I was worried that if I wanted to take a lot of pictures, I'd run out of juice. So I plugged into my car on the way home. When I got home, I put on the quick charger. When I got back in the car again to head to the game, I plugged in yet again. I had to be constantly thinking about my battery instead of just using the phone. At first I thought my battery life was being affected by using international unit, where I only had 1 bar of service. Maybe the device was looking for a network, causing premature battery drain. That was squashed though. In Brandon's test, he used T-Mobile and always had a strong signal, and his battery life tests were almost identical to mine. So none of this is a deal breaker, but it does require you to adjust how often you use your phone and how you think about your battery, or how often you think about it. So I'm happy to say the software doesn't slow performance down at all. Samsung's been rapidly working towards a much more optimized version of TouchWiz over the past few months, and it really shows. What this means for users is significantly less bloat, smoother experience, and just overall better usage. No more stuttering, no unnecessary add-ons, and no more software suffocation. If you've had a chance to use the S6 Edge or even the Galaxy S6, the software is pretty much the same. You still get plenty of mostly useless Edge features such as Edge Lighting, Edge People Information Screen, and Night Clock, along with the new additions known as Apps Edge, which is a quick way to access your favorite apps. What's kind of disappointing though, you don't actually need an Edge device for any of these features to be useful at all. Samsung just allowed it. Apps Edge and People Edge could be just as easily utilized on a smartphone with this flat display. But if I'm being honest, the swiping motion definitely wouldn't be as satisfying. But Samsung did need some ways to differentiate the Edge design beyond merely look, so I can understand the decision. One really cool software tweak that I use quite a bit is being able to tap the flash to take a selfie. It seems silly, but really helpful when you want to snap a picture of a fast-moving toddler. One last software touch, the ability to start a live broadcast on YouTube, which may or not get more people streaming in their everyday lives. As it is, smartphone owners already have options like Periscope and Meerkat, which have become crazy popular the past several months. I don't know how often you're going to use built-in streaming to YouTube, but it's there. So another great thing with this device, if you use the Google Now launcher like I do, you'll get 6 rows down, including the dock, instead of the normal 5 that I see on most. Like the Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge, the S6 Edge Plus, aside from being a mouthful, features the same 60-megapixel sensor and optical image stabilization, a combo that offers arguably the best camera experience in mobile. Samsung smartphones have always been above average in the camera department, and the S6 Edge Plus further cements the company's growing stature as a photography king. While Samsung's new weirdo phone is a sight to behold, we're still left waiting for that killer use case. It's like getting a Lambo but limiting it to a top speed of 40 miles per hour. There's plenty of unfulfilled potential. So overall, much like the S6 Edge, I really like this phone. The Edge screen really adds very little utility, but it adds a ton of beauty, and that means something to me. So the question I asked at the beginning, would I buy this phone? The answer should probably be obvious here, but yes, absolutely I would. But without a doubt, I'd get it in gold. The lack of expandable storage is an issue for me, but if it is for you, think about how you'll manage your own storage. While battery life leaves a ton to be desired, I know that I wouldn't carry an extra one. So in the end, some extra thickness and some more milliamp hours would have made this phone even better and probably close to near perfect. It gets an 8.5 on the TechnoBuffalo scale. So what do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree with our review? Is we way off on points? Love to hear your thoughts on it. Did this sway you one way or another to maybe pick up a Note 5 or an S6 Edge? Love to hear your thoughts on it. Leave in the comments right down below. Again, if you want to see a full review or see our gallery, hit the link down below and go to Brandon's full written review. Until next time, I'm John Renger from TechnoBuffalo. I'll see you next video.